everyone, and welcome to Eyes Wide Open. I'm your host, Donna Schmid, and today we've got a special guest. Her name is Kristin Nilsen, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about her. She is a Usui Reiki master teacher, currently practicing at her new wellness studio and workspace, which is called the Violet Flame Connective. She likes to say she's living a 4.0 version on her life path, which proves that it's never too late to follow your heart or to change the trajectory of your life. Former versions include professional chef, corporate recruiter, skincare entrepreneur, and now her most soul-aligned role, Reiki master. She's a forever student and constantly discovering new ways to make her sessions more fruitful for her clients, whether it's creating new recipes to unblock the chakras, a nod to her former life as a Le Cordon Bleu classically trained chef, making the connection between chakras and the physical body, or communicating with your loved ones who have crossed over. You will receive all of the information you may need at each particular session. Kristin lives on her Sun and Neptune lines in Bandon, Oregon, which unleashes her creativity and spiritual gifts while enhancing her psychic abilities. She lives with her husband and cat child, Buddy, and enjoys cooking, entertaining, hiking, beach meditations, and making her surroundings beautiful. Complimentary discovery calls are available to see if you and Kristin would be an energetic match, and we will talk about how you can make that happen later on in the show. So stay tuned and welcome, Kristin, to the show.
Oh, thanks, Donna. I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun.
Oh, good, yeah. I am just amazed at all of the things that you have done in your personal life or professional life as well too, that have brought you to this place where you have found your alignment with your soul and doing your work. So if you don't mind sharing with the viewers, like, your childhood and anything significant that you feel has kind of led the way for you or a foundation for you to move into who you are today.
Yeah, thank you. This is so exciting. Okay, so I grew up in a very hardworking blue collar family on the south side of Chicago. My parents, worked multiple jobs. They were always trying to provide for me and give me this best, the best life that they could. And I'm looking back now after years of therapy and doing all of my spiritual work. I think I realized at a young age that I had this gift of helping, that people came to me for advice or they thought that I could help them, whether it was in volleyball camp and doing certain skills there, or just as a friend and needing someone to chat with, even at a young age. And my parents, when they went through their divorce, I found that I was sort of helping both of them from that kind of emotional standpoint a little bit as well. And so I think that kind of set the foundation for me to really just love without any restrictions and to just put myself out there in terms of being who I was, knowing that I had something to offer, and that was my gift of helping. Well, if you know anything about the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram type 2, which is the helper. And there's healthy and unhealthy ranges of the Enneagram. And so I'm in a place now at 42 where I realize that I'm in a healthy version of the two, which means that I can still help and be of service, but I don't neglect my own needs and being able to help myself and nourish myself and my soul and my path. And so I think that has, through all of the different things that I've been interested in and the different roles I've played in my life, that's really been sort of the foundation. And so if you think about like a chef, just like the skincare entrepreneur and the corporate recruiter, I'm helping people, and nourish their soul with food, be able to help them get their dream job, helping to help someone who might have insecurities about their skin conditions. And so it all sort of aligns in that aspect, even though on paper it looks like it's a very much of a mixed bag of experience. But honestly, my, almost 18 years in corporate America has led me to a point where I can have my own business and understand the business foundation and basics and the behind the scenes of what it looks like to be able to launch a product or a service. And so everything has really just led me to this point, which is nice to look back in retrospect and see.
Yeah. I think it's a real important way you put it, because a lot of people are looking for their, quote unquote soul purpose, or what it is, that they're going to be best at and how they can help in the world. And it's always good to kind of look back and see what you've already done, because all of those things just feed you into where you're eventually going to become and what that is. So it's a good way to go back. I think that a lot of times when people do that, they also dredge up a lot of things that they kind of stuff down and don't want to look at, and kind of like the shadow side of themselves. And so when it gets too uncomfortable, like, okay, well, we'll look at that later, and we'll just go to work right now, or do whatever it is. So tell me, was that like for you when you started going through things? Did you start noticing that some things were kind of popping up?
Yes, definitely. I probably had my not so bold and blatant spiritual awakening in my late 30s. And that was sort of the time when I was really heavy into therapy and just trying to learn about myself more. And why I have this mission of like self-discovery. I think we're going to be constantly learning about every aspect of ourselves, our whole entire lives here on this earth. And so I've, many shadow things came up, many insecurities and things that stem from my childhood, but also just from how I didn't really love myself as much in my teens and 20s, and thinking that I had to play a role in order for people to love me, and so lots of things have come up. I have grown immensely and I'm still growing. There's things, that's why I love the emotion code. And I know we'll talk about that in a little while, but that really brings up lots of shadow things, lots of things that you might have stuffed down, even from like third grade reading class or something, and so it's fascinating what our bodies hold on to.
Yeah, it is. It is. And what we stack on top of it too. Yeah. which is also
Yeah.
fascinating. Um, I know you said you did some tradition. Was this traditional therapy that you were involved in?
Yep, mostly talk therapy, and then just kind of my own, like I do EFT tapping a lot on myself, and just try to read different books and different modalities, and I'm willing to try anything. Just to see what it does. It couldn't hurt.
Well, I don't know. I've interviewed people that do frog medicine, so I don't know. You might want to phrase that. Oh, and mushrooms. So you might want to think twice about that one.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of have my boundaries there. It's so clear in the forefront of my mind. Um, now the emotion code. I'm aware of the emotion code. I've not taken a class on it or studied it, but he did write a book, and I did read it. I think I had something I wanted to share with that about. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk about it because you're the expert in emotion code. How did you stumble on that?
Okay, so many things in my life, ideas, directions that I'm supposed to go, or things I'm supposed to learn come to me in my dreams. And I didn't really put that together until several years ago, but it's been happening my whole entire life. I always joke with my clients that, well, not joke because it's true, to follow the breadcrumbs of our life, like the thoughts that we have, the ideas, those little downloads. We might not know the how or why we're supposed to be going to a certain direction, but every little step leads you to something. So with the emotion code, it was actually so almost about 2.5 years ago. My husband and I had big birthdays, and so we went on a trip to Hawaii. And we were, I woke up one day from a dream, and it just had the emotion code, and I had no idea what it was. So I immediately was Googling it and shouldn't realizing that there's an audiobook. So I downloaded that and was listening to it on the beach, and I finished it within a day. I was obsessed. And then the next day on vacation, I turned on one of my favorite astrology podcasts, Soulshine Astrology. And the astrologer doesn't always have guests on, but she had an emotion code practitioner on as the special guest. So that's how I knew that I needed to look into this further. So while we were on the trip, I ordered, my magnet, which I could have used any magnet that I have at home, but and so I dove into that once I got home, and I overdid it. I didn't take the book's guidance.
Oh,
And I
no.
I was just so excited to be releasing all of these, like probably almost over 30 emotions I released within one sitting. And the book and the program, has you basically do around 10 or so in a day, which is a lot because your
Yeah,
body is like adjusting to releasing these deep
yeah.
rooted things.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, it's like a big purge, isn't it? And then
exactly.
logically think it has an effect on that as well too. So, well, that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good
Yeah,
job.
so yes, well, it was funny because then I had to do and that was on a Sunday, and then on Monday, I went back to work my day job as a corporate recruiter, and I work virtually, and I have interviews all day long. Well, I wanted to take a nap at lunchtime, which is like, I'm not really a napper, and I fell asleep for 5 hours. I
Whoa.
slept through my whole afternoon because my body was like, "What has just happened?" Like you mentioned, the purging is the perfect word for it. So that was my reality check of, okay, I need to take this slow, but this is very powerful and I need to do this more. So I went through the classes and things, and now I help my clients in sessions. And honestly, they might not like me to say this, but I don't think you need to be certified in it to be able to do it. It's more about tapping into your unconscious, and there's many different ways you can do that. I use my intuition in sessions, or I'll use a pendulum if people are just coming to book or coming for an appointment of just the emotion code. But you can do the sway test or the muscle testing like Dr. Bradley Nelson does in the book. There's many ways, but it's more about just like trusting yourself and having that intention of wanting to heal, and then seeing what comes up and just going with that. So yeah, it's really fascinating. If you want me to talk more about what it actually is and the idea behind it, I'm happy to do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. Bradley Nelson was a chiropractor, and in the 90s, he was realizing that a lot of his patients were coming in with physical ailments, but they were all stemming from emotional distress or things. And so he had his own little spiritual awakening where he realized, like, okay, this is something. And so he created essentially a chart of 60 emotions, and they're mapped out within like six rows and two columns, and they're all geared towards and aligned with different meridian points. And that spoke to me, because I go to acupuncture and they work with the meridian system, and I always say that like the chakras are like your down the midline of your body, those energy points, and the meridian is like the tentacles coming out of those chakras, and so it's all connected. And so as I was going through and reading about it more, it made so much sense why a lot of people will hold on to like anger or resentment, and that might be in their solar plexus or sacral area, which is where we hold a lot of our power and our emotions. And so it kind of clicked for me that way. And the idea is that once you find the trapped emotion, you can go and dig deeper and ask, like, who is this about? Yes or no questions in terms of what was my age when this trapped emotion became in my body. Or you can just say, all right, is this ready to be released? I don't necessarily need to relive all of this again. Let's let it go. And so you take a magnet, and like I said, I've used magnets on my fridge, like a winery magnet in a pinch. Like, it doesn't matter. The idea is that since we're biomagnetic beings, we're pulling out that emotion from our body with the magnet. So I run that down my client's back, like from their head down to the by their sacrum, and set the intention of releasing that emotion 3 times. And so the idea is that, you could have the emotion of anger in your body 100 times, but the one that's meant to come out today won't come back. And what I did for my own kind of practice is I try every week to have a little bit of, like, just go to the beach or do a little deeper meditation. I do the emotion code to ask, are there any trapped emotions hindering me from being a good practitioner or a good wife or whatnot? And I write them all down, and I take note of what it stems from, like situation in my life, and then also like what meridian point and row and column it's in, just so I can kind of keep track of those and see if there's a theme. And in 2.5 years of doing this regularly, I'm in like the 1800s of how many emotions I've released from my body. It's insane. It's crazy, and like they just keep coming, so I think that my clients get, sometimes they're like, wow, that's so many after one session, and or I know we did that many last time too. And I think the idea is that every little thing could cause a trapped emotion to be stuck in your body. Like, you can get cut off on the road and be upset about that, and that can linger somewhere within your physical body. And so it's a lifelong thing. It's not just like a one and done silver bullet where you can just release a few and then you're good. Just like our human existence is not like that. There's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
But I find that, from my own practice, I had like a good example of a emotion leaving and not coming back is I do try to do yoga frequently, and my wrist started to hurt when I was doing different poses. And so I asked if there were trapped emotions around that, and there were several. And I released those, and this was like last summer, and I haven't had any wrist issues since. Every now and then I'll ask like, okay, anything that I should know about from like my physical body for that's hindering me from doing yoga, just to make sure. But so that's how I really knew that, this is something that's really potent and powerful and impactful for people's lives, in addition to all the other energy work that they could get done. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to deter people because, music is like hundreds.
No, but
I know from my own practice that I know that for people, sometimes it is, or it can be like, past lives. It could be in the DNA. It could be, held in that respect. But your subconscious is not going to let you, or it's going to protect you. And so it's not going to let everything come out at one time, because like I said, that's a huge purge.
exactly.
It can really affect you.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's like that old fashioned layers of onions. And so it'll just take off the top, or what it is that you're ready to release at this time.
yes.
That's the key. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's definitely true. And it's to your point about it, you'll get what you need in that day. The same with Reiki. People
Yeah.
might come in thinking that they're going through this difficult time with their partner and they want to release that energy or certain emotions. And next thing we know, everything that's coming up has nothing to do with their partner. So it's just about being open to receiving whatever it is you're meant to receive that day. And yeah, it's a lifelong type journey. So I encourage people to do this like regularly on themselves, even if they come for a session or not. I think it's a great practice to incorporate, just like journaling or, your own
Yeah.
meditations.
Now, when people do come regularly, even speaking from yourself, and when you release, say just 10, we'll just say 10, because that's like the top number. If we release 10, can you share what that feels like? Not only in that session, but after the session and maybe long term.
Yeah, great question. So, everyone's body is different. So, for me, whenever I release a lot of emotions or some really deep ones that I have been stuffing down, I kind of get some stomach issues for a few days afterwards, where my stomach's just kind of upset and I have to really just nourish it with like green tea and toast for a few days. But I learned that from the beginning, and everyone is different. So in a session, sometimes people get a visceral reaction when we're releasing the emotions. They might get like chills down their back. They might feel like a weight's lifted off of their chest, maybe. But then I've had people tell me that after sessions, like within a week or two, or sometimes even a month, they feel lighter. They feel like they have more clarity, or they have more compassion for themselves. I have a good example of someone who was going through a divorce, and she had so much like bitterness and resentment and anger towards this person for years. It was a very long, drawn out divorce. And after we had two different sessions of Reiki and released a lot of trapped emotions, she said that she saw him unexpectedly for the first time since, and she had just a neutral feeling about him, not like her stomach and chest started hurting or anything like they used to. It was just very much like she could come from a place of neutrality and look at it for what the situation for what it was. And I thought that was just a beautiful, example. It doesn't have to be anything like, monumental, like getting struck by lightning, but it's, it's
Yeah.
definitely like real emotions that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Some people have really lucid dreams afterwards or for a couple of days. Some people just feel really tired, or they could feel like dehydrated. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, everyone has a different experience. But overall, people feel a sense of lightness and just like a release, like they have closure.
Yeah, yeah, that's great validation, by the way. I know for myself, when something is brewing, I call it brewing, or if someone says something to me and it's like, ooh, that hits something, I'm feeling that. I don't know what that is, but yeah, it's like my cue that okay, there's something there that we need to look at or discover. And when you touch on it, it's uncomfortable, because what emotion is that, on that spectrum that's on the negative side, or lower vibrational side, uh, I don't know any of them that feel good. I mean, we tend to shy away from them, and that's why we pile things on
Right?
because
Yes.
we shy away. But
Mhm.
once I touch it and it's like, okay, then I know it's my cue. Like, okay, there's some therapy involved in there, and
Ready to address this. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or even if somebody says something and I'll just start getting really emotional and teary eyed, it's like I welcome it now. Before it was like, ugh, but now I welcome it because I know I can get rid of it and I know how much I'll feel better after that. So
Exactly.
I wanted to stress that for the listeners and viewers because otherwise, I don't know, people would want, sometimes they just don't want to touch into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, and also too, oh, sorry. I was
no,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, in terms of letting something go, when we allow ourselves to feel those painful feelings, we're letting go of something in our bodies that we're able to make room for something else, something better. And whether that's like something that's been weighing on your mind or your heart or just something like physically sitting in your body. And that's how I sort of view it now. Whereas before it was like, oh gosh, this is too much. I can't do it. Like, I don't, let me just disassociate and think about something else. And
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, like, yes, this is here for my highest good. Like, my soul chose to come here to deal with this. So, like, it's going to
Mhm.
be okay. Like, I'm supported regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of clarity with it afterwards too. I
yeah.
think, and you begin after, after doing it a few times, you begin to realize that I have more clarity, I feel much better, and I'm able to think, to respond better,
Right.
so it's worthwhile, definitely.
Right. It
Yeah,
helps you and everyone around you,
yeah.
truly.
So
Yeah.
now for you,
Mhm.
offering Reiki with that is, to me, it's unusual, but I think it's a really great accompaniment because that's talking about, the energy. And so now, as that's released, of being able to recenter the energy. I mean, how would you define that? What happens when you do the Reiki with it? What's your version?
Yeah. So so interesting. I would say 95% of the time during Reiki sessions, I feel at least one or two trapped emotions while I'm going through the session. And so something that I love about sort of my practice is at the end of our sessions, we talk about everything that came up. It's sort of like a mini therapy session. And I like live for those one-on-one deep conversations and to help someone, it like just really fills my cup. But
Mhm.
being when someone goes through energy healing of any kind, they're skeptical or hesitant maybe at first or a little have trepidations. But then afterwards, like everyone, like clients just give me a hug and just say thank you. Like these are things that I never thought that I like was able going to let go of or that I was able to move forward from, and so that has been proven to be like a really good combination because energy, like our emotions are energy as well, so it's to me it's just like a natural pairing to do both, and to be able to just help someone heal on that extra level. And like you mentioned, the peeling of the onions, that's how trapped emotions work. And that there's something called a heart wall that Dr. Nelson
Mhm.
created within the book is that he explains is essentially like that, like an onion around your heart that's inhibiting you from loving yourself or receiving or giving love to someone else. And it could be from like a trauma or a heartache of some kind. And so those require extra, like several sessions to kind of work through that. And I think in a conjunction with the Reiki to move energy around and out of your body, it like just enhances the impact of the emotion code. So I think it's a great pairing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Got a great visual of that. But then you also mentioned, which is you got such a strong tool bag there. The mediumship. How is that incorporated in? Is that genealogy? Is that past life? Or how is that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, um, I had a dream that my grandmother is one of my biggest guides. She's always with me. She comes in the form of a hummingbird. Like she's just always around. She's always in my sessions on my left shoulder. Like I just feel her all the time. She comes to me in my dreams, and I had a miscarriage a few years ago, and it's great. It was the best learning, and I just learned so much about myself. So it was a positive experience. But she came to me in a couple dreams while I was pregnant for the short time, and basically said like it's time to unlock this. And so I didn't know what to do. I just said, okay, like let me be open and be the conduit for whatever needs to come. And so while I was pregnant, like, so that's when it started for me. So in the session, when you're doing Reiki, you're essentially like, you're tapping into the subconscious, but you're getting in your own deep meditative state. And so, with like, no inhibitions around, it's just free flowing. And that's what I love about it. My brain just stops and I just let everything come in. And so people that have crossed over come through pretty frequently, even if they just are there to like, I feel their hands on top of my hands as I'm going over someone's body. Or they might have a word that doesn't mean anything to me, but it means something to the client, or they might have a message, or they might show me a vision of the person as a child or in a situation that was painful, and like, helping them to kind of get through that. So it comes in different forms. But I find that the more that I become a clearer channel, the more that mediumship and the different skills kind of come through. And the more that I kind of de-stress or like work through my own stuff, it becomes more clear. So instead of being like mucky and muddy in there, it becomes a little bit like a clearer river. So yeah, it's just interesting. So it just is, I don't know, but I'm not in a place yet where someone can say, okay, I want a session with you as a medium, and I want to tap into this person that's coming through. Like, I can't just do it at a drop of a hat like that. I need to be in that kind of Reiki state so far. But I've always had really strong intuition, and I think that's been a part of all of that since we're all connected. So,
Mhm.
but it's fascinating. So I'm just excited to see what else happens in the next however many years.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're channeling too, as well.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Especially, Reiki, because you're bringing that energy in from, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, the Pleiades actually are like one of my big
yeah.
guides, and I channel them a lot in sessions, and they come to me in like like a sing-songy rhyme. So it sounds like almost like a lullaby is how, like, if
Oh.
I'm trying to describe it to someone afterwards about what they said, which is always really cool. But like I started channeling light language about a year ago or so. I didn't know what light language was. It just started coming out of my mouth with like a few of my clients that I think I've probably have had past lives with. And so it was very natural, and my jaw just started going, and things were like syllables were coming out of my mouth and sounds. And so then I was like, okay, well, what does this actually mean? Like, how do I explain this to the client? And then I hear from like Pleiadian guides, like what it actually means. So that doesn't happen all the time either, but like I invite that all in
Mhm,
for
mhm,
every session, and
mhm.
being open to
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're a really great channel. You're
Oh,
open, and you're open to receive, and whatever is going to be beneficial for that client that's before you. So,
thank you.
instead of you controlling it and saying, well, usually I do this, like, it's this system that you've got going. You're just open just to receive, and whatever it is that they need, you're available for. That's awesome. That's a
Thank
great healer
you.
in my book.
Oh,
That's
that's
awesome.
so
But
sweet.
that's just
Thank
me.
you.
So,
Thank you.
let's talk about light language, since you brought it up.
Mhm.
And there might be some people that don't know what light language is. Can you kind of share it? And sometimes when I first heard it, I kind of freaked out a bit when I first heard it.
Uh-huh.
It was like,
Yeah.
to me, it was like, oh my God, what the heck is going on? Are they okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if how well I could describe it, but at first for me, it sounded like someone was speaking to me in like Japanese really fast. And that was sort of the tone, and like the syllables and like the sounds were very much like in that dialect. And then so at first I was like, well, okay, Dr. Usui was Japanese, and the Reiki, like, okay, maybe this has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Um, but essentially, well, from what I understand, light language is like the ancient language that was used before Earth was even created, and when we had like the Atlantis and all of the different star cluster communities of Lemurians and Pleiadians and everyone, and so that's how they communicated, and that is something that I think is within all of us, whether it's dormant or it's open to receiving as well. And it sounds like like people teach courses on how to tap into light language and everything. And I think that's super cool. I think it just depends on again, if you're following those breadcrumbs, if it's something that interests you, then definitely just like learn and see how it feels. But I don't know if you have anything to add. Like, I don't know anything scientific about it or anything like, but
Well, I don't know about scientific, but it for me, it I think it's like the Palladian language for me. I
Mhm.
think I mean, it's a form of it. I'm sure there's probably like Lyrian language,
Yeah.
starseed language, just like here we have, the German language, American
Right.
language, kind of thing. So um, for some people, I don't, and since you're so close with the Palladians, I'm going to guess that it's probably more so Palladian like language. But do you know when you're speaking it, do you automatically understand the translation of it?
No, no, I don't. So
Okay.
so it honestly it has not had it's only come up probably like 4 or 5 times outside of my Reiki setting where it's happened with me and I've been by myself, like in the car or like if I've been on a walk. And when I'm in a session, it starts to come out of my mouth and then the person most of the time is sleeping in the session. So I'm like, okay, let me just like I'm just doing it as soft as
Whisper.
I can. Yes, but like my jaw is going and I'm moving a mile a minute, And so then, and then have to take a big gasping breath because it's like very overwhelming when it comes through so fast. And so then I say, okay, now what does that mean? What message do I have to give? And so that's when I hear what the message is. And then it usually ties into other things that I've heard throughout the session and different like words of wisdom that have come through already. It kind of ties in, but yeah, so that's kind of how I do it. I don't
Do
know.
you think it's like coded language just to have because sound is very healing, sound in its many forms. So
Yes.
if it is, as you're speaking it, as you're sharing it, it is a form of sound that is coming out. Do you think it's kind of related to that in the fact that maybe it's like healing codes because you're working in that
Yeah,
realm? You think it's like healing
right.
codes that are coming out and
Yeah.
downloading into the
I think,
patient,
yeah, I
into
think
the
so. I
person?
think, right? Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's like this for like frequency healing
Yes.
and also like activating for my throat chakra
Oh,
and
got
then
chills.
helping other people, you know. And then like
Yeah.
it just sort of transmutes into the client's energy field, But I definitely think that it's that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting the thing when I was reading all about you, I was thinking, oh gosh, this girl is a powerful healer. You pack a powerful punch. It's
Oh,
not just
thank
one
you.
thing that you're good at. You've got like master stuff that you got that you were helping people with. Kudos for you. I
So
love when
sweet.
people
Thank you.
follow who they are and their
Yeah.
gifts.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
I want to tell you about this. Um, so when you're working with people
Hmm.
and oh God, I can just imagine. I mean, I've got like visions of people on your table and you're working with them. Um, I'm almost to a point of not knowing what to say right now. Fumbling.
Do you
I'm
want me to talk
fumbling.
about do you want me to talk about the collective or something? Or yeah, what's up to
About
you?
what?
Like the collective, my new space,
Oh
or talk about Reiki?
yes, let's
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Um, Gosh, I have like permanent goosebumps, by the way. This is I love this type of conversation. So thank you. Okay, the Violet Flame Collective. Another really cool just following the breadcrumbs. Okay, so in our town here, I had started another wellness studio a couple of years ago with two other women, and so I was practicing out of there, and it was great. I was outgrowing my space because we didn't have like a big general area for classes or workshops or anything. So I was having people just come into my room, and it was getting kind of cramped for my Reiki classes and like my moon circles and everything. And so um, down the road, a few blocks away in our small town, there's a space for lease, and I had put the phone number in my phone. And for about a month, I sat on it and didn't forgot about it for a while, and then was like, "Oh, I should call." And then one night, I had a dream, and then the next day, my therapist was like interpreting my dreams, which she's so good at. I love it. She was like, yeah, why haven't you called that number yet?" And I'm like, "You're right. I don't know. It's been on my mind a lot." So I called. The next day, I looked at the space and it had this huge open area that could probably seat like 15 to 20 people for a workshop and class. And it just aligned more with my goals and visions for where I want to take my practice. I really want to bring different healers and practitioners and experts in like the healing realm to our area to be able to like show people that there's more than just one way of that wellness and health. And so everything from like EMDR and therapy
Ah,
to trauma release to astrology and tarot, like everything in between. And so um, I signed the lease, and then within a month or 6 weeks, I had filled up all of the spaces in there with different practitioners.
Ah,
It
wonderful.
just I mean, it all really just truly came together, and of course, like, I have 5 planets in Libra, so I need to make my space and surrounding beautiful, and my poor husband, he was a trooper during his winter break. He We spent over 300 plus hours in that space, like,
Mm,
changing and remodeling and revamping from the ground up, and it is just a stunning it feels so good when you walk in. I'm so proud of it, but I'm just so excited because I really want to the mission of the collective is to nourish your entire being. And so obviously Reiki and energy healing for the energy and spiritualness. We have a reflexologist, we
mm,
have a massage therapist, and who also does thermography, if you're familiar. Yes, like the first one in our area to do it, which is just another more Western medicine thing that I think some people feel more comfortable with, but it's still proactive and not just like a reactive medicine type situation. And then we have a mental health therapist, as well as a company that's doing IV therapies and like nutrient D3 and wellness shots. So it kind of covers all of the basis of every part of your being. And that's exactly what I wanted. And we're hoping to do like at least 2 to 4 workshops a month, moving forward. So far I have so many, so many irons in the fire with that, which is fun. But
great.
we have like someone that's going to be doing tarot. We have someone that's going to be doing TRE, trauma response exercises.
Mm,
I have a doula friend who's going to be doing like postpartum doula meetups. So there's just a lot going on that I'm really excited about. And, we're hoping to have healers all across the state come in, and like then they can do the workshop and then do a pop up with their own modality and have a new clientele to bring to them. And even just people that aren't in the area, gonna have a big projector screen, and we'll do like Zoom things there and stuff too. And so it all just feels very aligned, and just feeding those breadcrumbs and making that call, and then here we are. So I'm just
mm,
really excited for what's going to happen with it and the future of it and how many people we're going to be able to help. So
yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you took time out of your busy life
oh
to
gosh,
be with us today.
I
That's awesome. I
know.
love the idea. That is so. It is a blessing. It really is to have that much there that people can. It's like a potpourri of things, and it's like what you want to taste, what you want to experience. It probably comes from your food
Yeah,
background.
right.
Got to have a little bit of everything.
Yes, it's all connected.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like the buffet table. Here it
Right.
is, here it is, here it is. Here it is.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
I
I'm a
like
foodie.
choices.
I'm a foodie.
Oh, good. Me too.
I'm really big on presentation too, so
Oh,
that's
me
awesome.
too.
You did a great
Yes.
job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you know, I think this is great too. That I want to kind of caveat with this all, kind of put this together a bit, because people going through a medical crisis or any type of crisis or trauma in their life, it's like we tend to, because we've been programmed from an
Mhm.
early age, to seek out the Western medical response to something that is wrong within us. And it's interesting because I'm hearing from a lot of people now that they've gone to the doctor, especially since COVID. It's like they don't know what's wrong with me. I have all these little anomalies going on, and I don't feel good, and I'm not right. And yet, no one can find out, either through blood tests or x rays or scans, the traditional Western medicine, what's wrong with me. And I always kind of gear them to, have you tried?
Right.
Go over here for a little bit and kind of play over here. I mean, it should be something that's part of your repertoire for your healing journey, no matter what. Because I'm thinking in my mind, when you talked earlier about the emotion code, that I'm a firm believer that emotions really dictate all of the physical. No matter what is
Couldn't
going
agree
on, you
more.
have to
Mhm.
tackle all of it, not just that part that you can touch and feel, but also the energetic quality of it as well. And that could be, like you said, the emotions, but also you're dipping into past lives. You're also dipping into the DNA. And
Right.
I think, just to put it into perspective for people again, I don't want to push people away, because it's like, oh, this is going to be a lifelong thing. But I think all of us here at this time are here to not only heal ourselves in the body that we've been given through our DNA, but also 7 generations back, which will heal 7 generations forward. So it's not just me. It is everyone that came before me and everyone that will come after me, will reap that benefit. And when you think about it, when that shifts, that energy shifts, we are shifting the world. So is this part of the awakening, the enlightenment of the planet? Yes, it is. And it's always each of us our responsibilities to take care of that, to really embrace it and align with it. And so I'm really grateful that you understand this and you kind of put this together for people. It's like you're a little Eastern medicine hospital, if you will.
Right? I know. I love it. It's so great. But I totally agree with you in terms of really quick, just about healing the generations. I think that puts it in a different perspective when we get so bogged down with like the grief or the stress that we have in our own individual lives. We can just like spiral and just, feel what's in our physical body, and that's it. And if you think about that, everything happens for us, not to us, but also that this is part of what we signed up for so that we could heal and heal everyone that comes after us and before us. And like, I just think that puts it just in a different perspective that hopefully it reframes it for people as well to get out of that cycle.
Good. Now you were talking about the violet flame. So where did that kind of pop up at?
Yeah. So the day that I looked at the space for the first time, I pulled a card from my Kyle Gray Oracle deck, one of the ones that I love. And that was the card I pulled. And it was the Chamber of the Violet Flame, and I had never heard of it. And so I looked in the little book that came in the deck, and the first line of it basically says, "This is a healing sanctuary in a spiritual retreat center." So I knew that that was the name. I didn't even consider any other name. I knew that was it. So actually, I printed out and got framed for the reception of the studio what the Oracle deck says about the violet flame, so that people can read that when they come in and know that that's what we're trying to create here. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, I use the violet flame often. I call it like it's my recycle bin. So because it takes the energy, stagnant energy or trapped energy, as you called it, and it breaks it apart, and then dispenses it back up to source, where it can be reused again. So it's like recycling it. It's because sometimes I've heard some practitioners get into this mode of, oh, it's bad energy or it's negative energy, and it's like, oh, energy is just energy, and if you want to label it, that's great, but you really don't need to. It's just energy that is not it's stagnant. It's not moving as your free flowing energy. How's that? And so it's not light. It's a little bit heavy. It's a little bit darker. It kind of pulls you down, and you feel it, and you just don't know why you feel that way.
Right.
But there's a good reason for it. And so when that's released, with the violet flame, it just takes it away. So when you were using the magnet kind of thing, and we're surfing it, I just saw the violet flame and back behind you, because that's actually where it's going. It is. So that's really great that you're in tune with that. Yeah.
I'm going to use that. I love that. I love that visual. I need a visual often. So I like that.
Yeah. It's being recycled.
Perfect.
We all have to think about our carbon print, our blue.
Right.
So amazing. Well, is there anything else you want to add to? I mean, I could talk to you all day.
I know. I just think if anyone takes away anything from our conversation, it's to allow yourself to get out of your head and just really go with what the world and the universe is presenting to you, regardless of knowing the how or the why. I think that's how I've gotten here. That's what comes up a lot in my channeled messages, is like, you don't need to know the how, just know that like all the signs are pointing to this, and that it's okay to change our minds and do something different, because it's all larger collective good, and our whole so
it's an exploration, and sometimes too, I think they've said that the Earth is like a, you know, a school for us. It's
Mhm.
a training ground, if you will. Or so if you're here, why not explore everything that kind of interests you? It's not just school. We get a little tired of school. We're done with school. We don't have to go back to school, but yet there's so much out there that we can experience. So look at it then almost like an amusement park. You know, there's different rides, there's different venues, and there's different things to explore. So, you know, kind of go around and just see what, like, ooh, what's that? Let me try that, you know, or
Right.
wonder what that's about. And like you did, you so did that at the very beginning. You were like, anything that caught your attention or sparked your curiosity, you were like all in it kind of thing.
Right.
And I think
Yes.
we all need to be like that, because that, you know, that's what really makes us grow spiritually.
Agreed. Yeah, and also too, you know, I agree with everything that you said. And in terms of piquing your interest and your curiosity, like a lot of people will often ask me, you know, how do I know which modality to try, or how do I know which books to read or anything? And I say that, you know, there's no right or wrong way and path, but also if there's something that keeps coming up in your sphere, or you are really interested when someone brings up a topic, like just start there and see what happens.
Mhm.
You know, you don't have to just read every single book under the sun and then get nothing out of any of them, you know? And so, just being
That's a
open to
key.
that.
Yeah, that's a key
Yeah.
point. Just take a little, you know, slice of the cake. You don't have to eat the whole cake. Just take a little slice of it.
Right.
Going back to food again, you know, this stuff.
Right.
But just take a little taste. And if the taste is not, if you don't feel good about that taste, then you don't have to eat that
Right.
cake right
And that's
now. You don't have
okay.
to try it. Try something else.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty out there.
Agreed.
Some kinds, as you
Yeah.
should know.
Yes. There are. Oh, great.
That's awesome that you've kept your figure with all of that. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
I
tasted
mean,
everything.
yeah, I mean, I definitely am an emotional eater, so I got that going for me, but I'm working on it. It's fine.
That's
But to
great.
your point about energy, like food's neutral, you know, we
Yeah.
give food
Yeah.
and money too much
Mhm.
power, and it's just a neutral
Yeah.
thing. There's no
Yeah.
good or bad foods, good or bad, you know,
Yeah.
financial things.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So if now you, thank God for COVID to a certain degree, because we a lot of us were sent home. I was
Yeah,
one of them.
yeah.
Um, but because of the internet, I mean, it's so beautiful how that kind of just piggybacked on things. But now we can use that
Yes.
to just touch millions of people all over the world, not just in your, you know, surroundings. So do you do like internet, you know, Reiki healing and emotion code?
I do distance sessions, and they're usually over the phone or like FaceTime.
Mm.
But I do them frequently, especially back home with a lot of friends and family in Chicago. But they're, you know, we'll talk on the phone or we'll do a quick FaceTime and I'll do a little mini meditation and then we'll hang up and I'll do my thing and then call them back and kind of go through everything that came up. And I just posted a testimonial on my social yesterday of someone who received a distance session as a gift certificate, and she was like 1,500 miles away, but there were so
Mhm.
many things that came up, like in a vision of a volcano erupting at the same time where she was feeling like physical like release during the
Wow.
session. And it was just I just, you know,
Mhm.
energy has no bounds. And I
That's
think
right.
that, I mean, so
Mhm.
many practitioners only do distance type work, you know,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I think it's just beautiful to be able to do that. And I just would love to grow that part of my business as well too. I know it's hard for
Mhm.
people to wrap their head around what that would look like when they're just like lying on their bed at home and I'm all the way in Oregon, but I just think it's so powerful still. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
agree. So if someone anywhere that's watching, listening to, would like to have a session with you, or even like to know more about you,
Yeah.
how can they reach you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, nourishcobandon.com. We have, or any of our social media with Nourish Co. Bandon or Violet Flame Co. And it has all of our information around our practitioners and how to contact them as well. Anyone could send me an email or give me a call. I'm open to all of that too. So, and I do, you know, complimentary consultations just to answer people's questions around what energy healing is and seeing if we're a good energetic match. I do teach my Reiki classes in person now. And so we do like a little intro interview type meet and greet beforehand to make sure we're a good fit and just to address anyone's questions or concerns too. So, yeah, there's lots of ways. we're around.
Great. And I'll put all of that information down below for people so that it's easy for them to kind of cut and paste.
Yeah.
Can reach you. Great. Well, Kristin, this was really enjoyable for me.
Yeah, me too. Highlight of my week.
Yeah, you're not that far from me, so I have an inkling to just come to them and then just
Yes. Oh, I would love that.
and have a session. Why not?
Oh my gosh.
Because I'm open to a lot of things.
Yeah.
I do have some reservations, maybe because I'm not quite ready for it yet. But
Right.
definitely, I love Reiki and I love the emotion code, so I wouldn't mind just surrendering to you and your guides and teachers and saying, okay, I'm ready, do what you need to do.
Yeah. Oh, I would
I'm
love
there.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe you can come and teach a workshop too while you're up here.
Love that. I would
That'd be
just love that.
awesome.
So honored as well too. Did I let you know about the Enlightened Living Fair that's here in Grants?
You did, and I hadn't heard of it for some reason, but I will be going. My reflexologist and I are going, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. Yeah.
And we can meet in person and really gang together. Oh, sounds great.
Yes, I know, I'm excited.
Work done, but yes.
I
love it. I love it. Okay, great. So then we'll have some fun there and set some things up. Great. Thank you so
thank you, Donna.
much for who you are and your personal travels, because that says a lot for you as a spiritual being. And I'm looking forward to watching you grow even more and seeing what spirit has in plans for you and how you manifest it. In the meantime, I look forward to the Enlightened Living Fair with you. And I welcome everyone to share this podcast and join. And if you what is it, subscribe. If you subscribe, then you'll get all the notifications of who the guests are and what other things we've got coming up. And I'd love to be able to interview some of the people in your facility as well too, because that sounds like fun too. Give everybody a little bit of everything. I love it. Kristin, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Donna.
You're welcome.
See you soon.
All right.
Take good care.
All right. Thank you.